Good morning. This is Allison Miller talking to you this morning from Tampa, Florida. I wanted to tell you guys about a couple of different things that I've been putting together to help you get prepared for the ANCC PMHN exam. I've got two new products, but I also wanted to talk today about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I know I haven't posted a video in a really long time, so I wanted to put something out there for you guys. I've just been very busy. I've been consulting in Colorado, so basically I've been commuting from Tampa to Colorado for 9 months. It's been an interesting year. But I wanted to show you something that I've been working on. I have a brand new product that's the workbook that I've put together. It's 55 pages, and it has some things in it that are not in Kim Hutchinson's book or that are in Kim's book but are organized differently in my workbook. So for instance, she goes into some pretty good details about the theoretical developmental theorists and things like that. What I did is I put them into a format, a grid format, to be able to study them a little bit more effectively in terms of comparing and contrasting them. Another thing that I did in this is I organized information about antidepressants into a narrative over here and then sort of a grid format over here. I've got lots of different topics in here. There's stuff on transcultural nursing. I've got 4 pages on non-therapeutic communication, that is to say the things that are going to block communication, that are going to hinder it. So I wanted to show you that I have that. And at the very back of the workbook, there's a couple of pages of a quiz on suicide assessment and intervention that you might find is particularly helpful. You can get this on my website at PMHRN.com. The other thing that I've put together for you in the last 6 months is a set of study cards. They look like this. They're hot off the press. I just got them done. It's a huge project to work on. They have study cards that look like this on the front, and then on the back, you've got information like this. These are on Maslow, and that's what I want to talk about today. You can buy the cards on PMHRN.com as well. So let's talk about Maslow. Why do we keep coming back to Maslow? There's a very specific reason. Maslow's hierarchy of needs are basically informing us about what is going to drive the patient's behavior at any given moment. It's not just the patient, by the way, it's everybody's behavior. But for the point we're going to make here, it's really about the patient. When a patient, for instance, straightforward, right? A patient is homeless. They come into the hospital via the ER because the police have brought them in, because they're shouting at a tree or something. When the patient has not eaten, the patient is dehydrated, the patient's overriding behavior is going to be driven by those particular needs. That is to say, they are going to be more interested in getting something to eat and getting hydrated than they are in talking about what kind of care they've had in the past or what medications they're on. We have to address those needs first. We have to, or they're not going to be able to go up the ladder of being able to progress and engage. Okay, so they've got to be fed, they've got to be hydrated, they've got to be warm, right? So those basic needs are going to drive the patient's behavior first. The second layer of need, if those needs are being met, then the second thing that's going to come up is going to be whether or not the patient feels safe, or whether or not the patient actually is safe. So you've got a patient that was just brought in via ambulance after a sexual assault, right? The patient's primary thing at that moment, the primary need is going to be feeling safe. We have to ensure that the patient feels safe and, by the way, is safe. So we have to do those things that are most important for the patient's safety. Then, if those two sets of needs, those layers of needs are met, then the next layer of need is going to be having the patient feel cared about and having the patient feel respected. That is the third layer. So when you're looking, everybody has seen this pyramid, right? The lowest level, and I hate using that, it is the lowest level visually, but it's the foundation of all human needs. The foundation, the first thing that needs to happen is that we need to feel our basic needs are met. So we need to have food, we need to have water, we need to have warmth. The next is going to be safety. The one after that is going to be feeling cared about and feeling respected. Those are the things that when a test question is asking you about what's the nurse's next priority action? What is the priority action here? What is the most important thing for the nurse to do next? Those questions are going directly to what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs for this patient. So if a patient comes in, let's just say, patient comes in and they are floridly psychotic, and they see you as being part of MI6 and that you are out to get them, you are out to attack them. Well, their sense of safety is so impaired that that's the only thing that we can work on. We can't work on their medications with the patient, that is to say, engaging with the patient. We can't work on them doing self-care. We have to address this profound sense of breach of safety that the patient is experiencing. Now, a lot of that obviously is going to be treated with medication, but we also have to act in ways that enhance the patient's belief that they are safe, right? We can't use language that's going to make them feel at threat. We can't say things like, listen, you've got to start doing X, Y, Z, or you're going to, that we can't do that. We have to be non-verbally in terms of our non-verbal behavior, and in terms of our verbal behavior, they have to be congruent. We have to reassure the patient all the time about the patient's sense of safety. So we make sure that they've been fed and hydrated, that they're either warm or cool, depending upon, down here in Florida, it's always about making sure the patient has been cooled down, not heated up. Then we've got to make sure that they feel safe. Not just that they are safe, but that they feel safe. Think about a combat veteran who's been brought in after a really bad PTSD episode. Their primary thing is going to be making sure that they feel safe. They are safe, but we have to make sure they feel safe. Then the third level is going to be making sure that the patient feels cared about and that the patient feels respected. This is so important. Think of the number of times when a patient has felt disrespected by somebody on the unit. Could be a patient, could be a staff member, and how they flared up from that, right? It is in everybody's best interest to make sure that the patient feels cared about and respected. That is a core need of every human being. Some people can tolerate feeling disrespected better than others, but our patients cannot. First of all, they're so used to feeling disrespected, we will trigger them if we do that. So we really have to work on that. When there is a test question that is asking about what is the priority action or what is the most important thing for the nurse to do next, this is how you think about it. Is there anything in the test question that talks about the patient's core needs being at risk? That is to say, is there any breathing problem? Is there any cardiac problem? Is there any dehydration? Has the patient been starved? Anything like that? Are his vital signs whacked out? If he's got a temperature of 104.6, no matter what else is going on with that patient, that's going to be the number one priority. We have to get the patient's body back under control so that we can work on anything else that the patient's got going on. So always look at the test question to see if there's anything that's threatening the patient's life, right? And then look at whether or not there's anything that is threatening the patient's safety. Now, if the patient is suicidal, that is going to be the number one priority because that is threatening the patient's safety as well as the patient's life. Homicidal, same thing. So use the test question, use this concept of Maslow to filter through any of the test questions and the answers, right? So if there's an answer that is addressing the patient's life, keeping the patient alive, that's going to probably be the right answer, assuming that that's reflected in the test question. I hope that's clear. I hope I'm making myself clear. You really want to look at every test question to see whether anything is threatening the patient's life, anything is threatening the patient's safety, anything that's threatening the patient's sense of being cared for and respected. So here's how I always think about Maslow, and this is what I teach my students. Keep them alive, keep them safe, care about them. That's it. Keep them alive, keep them safe, care about them. That's how you remember what to do with Maslow. Keep them alive, keep them safe, care about them. So use that as your sort of your mantra anytime they're asking for you to prioritize something in a test question, and that should steer you clear. Okay. So again, I've got that on the study cards. If you're interested in either of those, by all means, check out my website, pmhrn.com. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to email me or send me, leave a message here on YouTube, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Good luck with your studies, and I hope to talk to you soon.